My name is Zinhle Simamane. I'm 32 years old and I am currently the CFO of International Business at Traxtion. From an educational perspective, I went to high school in Johannesburg. I grew up in Johannesburg. I then decided to continue with my tertiary education here. So I went to the University of the Witwatersrand studying accounting. Thereafter, I joined PwC because I wanted to go the CA route. I did my articles with them in the banking and capital markets division. I enjoyed it. I got exposed to the financial services sector. I was exposed to private equity, which was great because then it allowed me further exposure into the businesses that they invested in. So from that, saw a little bit of telecoms, saw a little bit of mining, or minerals and resources. From PwC, I got the opportunity to join ABSA, which I did in the capacity of a program called the Young Chartered Accountants Program. While there, I was able to rotate within the finance function disciplines at ABSA over a period of 2 years in 6-month stints. So my first role was in pure back office PCG, product control. Thereafter, I moved to financial decision support, which was more around the budgeting and the costing of the company as a whole. I then spent 6 months in Ghana, which was quite exciting. I enjoy traveling, and that experience was invaluable. The exposure that I was able to get, because it is a smaller bank than the SA counterpart. So I was able to see and learn a lot more while I was living in Ghana, got immersed in the culture, enjoyed my time there thoroughly. Then I came back to SA, and my last 6 months on the program was spent in technical advice. So it was a technical accounting team. Issues were identified within the bank, and we would provide accounting solutions for them, either from a theoretical and a practical and implementation perspective. When new IFRSs were rolled out at the time, IFRS 9 was a big thing, obviously affecting the financial sector. Was part of the team that trained people on the changes. Once that was done, I was invited to join the projects team for Rest of Africa. Like I've said, I enjoyed my time in Ghana and the exposure that I had there, and managed to build good relationships with the Rest of Africa team based in SA. So I was asked to join the project team there. I joined as a SWAT team member, which essentially meant that you would plug in wherever you needed to. So if a country needed someone to fill a gap, or if someone went on maternity and they couldn't find a replacement, or they were lacking a resource that they hadn't been able to fill for a while, they would request that a SWAT member would come in and join the in-country team for a period of anything between 2 weeks to 4 months, depending on what the need was. So in that, you needed to be quite adaptable. You needed to come in, learn the people, learn the team, learn about the culture and the environment, and then also provide solutions. At the end of the day, you were there to help. So I enjoyed that as well. It involved traveling, spent time in Seychelles, beautiful, but I was still working in an office. Spent time in Zambia. See, I have to say, also beautiful, just doesn't have the ocean. And they rolled out projects, stayed for a year, got a call from one of the companies I used to audit to head up their their mezzanine fund, which they just started up. I was there for about a year and 8 months, and in that time I studied and completed my CFA. So I realized that I wasn't using the skills that I had recently acquired. Enter Traxtion. A friend of mine approached me. She was at a recruitment company at the time and asked if I was on the market. She specialized in CAs, and I told her, you know what, let's have a look. And she told me about a freight and rail company. And I said, you know, I'm in financial services. I don't know anything about freight and rail, but send me the spec and let's see. Went in for the interview. I mean, obviously it worked out because I'm still there. And it's been good. The nice thing about it is that I'm able to use both qualifications in my current role as is. So yes, from a finance perspective, the CA background and that experience and exposure comes in handy. And then from a CFA perspective, the analysis of deals and the capital raising and talking through and problem solving, I'm able to use as well. So the analyst side I get from both my CA and my CFA. Key highlights in my career so far, I've just spoken about it, but it's the being able to obtain the dual qualification at a relatively young age. I've obtained my CA qualification when I was 24 and my CFA when I was 28. Then another highlight, once I was done with the YCAP program, I stayed on at ABSA for an extra year, and I was requested to essentially manage the program for the incoming group, which was great, being able to move from being a participant in the program and understanding from within the issues and the great things from it to now managing it and helping shape people's career within the bank. My thoughts of the industry I am working in, I moved from financial services to rail. So starting from the beginning, I knew almost nothing. What is a locomotive? When you say freight, the different types of freights, container, wagon. I knew about trains, the ones that you get on, like the blue train to Cape Town. I hadn't been on many trains in my life, so it was completely new. Locomotives are massive. You don't really think about it unless you're standing at a workshop next to one, and I'm not that tall. So these are huge pieces of equipment. It's a little bit overwhelming. From the work and itself, it's very dynamic and always changing. I'm fortunate in the fact that Traxtion gets to work in different jurisdictions outside of South Africa. One of the reasons the role itself attracted me, and it's what you think is happening in SA is very different to what's happening in Mozambique, in DRC, in Zambia, in Egypt, in Ghana. The rail industry is very different depending on where you're operating. The people that you're interacting with are different. So it's quite a dynamic industry, somewhat complex, and still exciting. You have everyone, such a diverse group of people, from the guys who work in the factory to the guys who are in country driving the trains. Fun fact, with the relevant safety measures in place, I got to sit at the front of a loco and move 100 meters. So that was exciting. Yeah, it's a dynamic, ever-changing, interesting industry, and rail is, it's the way of the future. Especially in Africa, we see how much efficiencies it brings abroad. You go to New York and you see the subway tunnel for passengers. You go to Europe and you understand that once again, the passenger rail system helps, the freight rail system helps, it's efficient. So to implement those efficiencies here would be a game changer. It's an exciting industry to be in, an industry I never thought about before I was actually in it. And my future at Traxtion is mostly about growth. Like I've spoken about, the opportunities are almost boundless when you look at what we can do on this continent. So number one, growth for the company itself, growth for myself within the organization, within the company. I'm not entirely sure what it looks like because I think I've accomplished quite a bit so far. But definitely learning more, growing within the space that I'm in, being a future current leader, and with this being Youth Month, and I still do qualify as youth, under 35. So I do think that it's important that the youth embraces the opportunities that are afforded to them, snatch the opportunities that come your way, fight for opportunities that aren't given to you, take your education really seriously. I don't think I'll ever stop wanting to learn or wanting to grow my skills. And if that's the attitude that you have, then the opportunities that you would be afforded become almost limitless. So build your foundation from an education perspective, build your relationships, don't burn bridges, and remember that we as the youth are where we are because of where we've come from. So thank your parents, thank the history and the upbringing that we as a country have, as well as people within your closed systems, and keep your support structures in place.